Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we go deep, deep, deep in all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Today, we're diving into 90s hip-hop.
A time of big rivalries, some huge tracks.
You know, and looking at all the stuff, you gave us articles, lyrics, background, and all that. It seems like you really want to understand why this one song, Hit 'Em Up, is still
Oh, yeah.
such a big deal.
Absolutely. It's a song that captures a moment in time, but it also speaks to bigger things.
Yeah.
Loyalty and betrayal, and the idea of keeping it real in hip-hop.
Okay, so back in 1996, Hit 'Em Up comes out.
Right.
It's the B-side to How Do You Want It?
Yeah.
Why this track? Why not the A-side?
Well, Hit 'Em Up is raw, aggressive. He's not holding back at all. You can really hear the danger in his voice. This isn't just a little diss. This is like a declaration of war.
Yeah, and that anger is aimed right at the big guys on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Biggie, Puffy, Lil Kim Jr., MAFIA. Gets really personal.
It's personal because it's rooted in what was happening between the East and West Coast. To understand Hit 'Em Up, we have to go back to 1994 when Tupac was shot in New York at Quad Recording Studios.
Right, he survived, but he was convinced Biggie and Puffy were involved somehow, or at least knew about it. That's a huge betrayal, especially if they were friends.
Exactly. Imagine how betrayed he must felt. The song is fueled by that suspicion and the hurt that came with it.
Yeah.
And then Biggie's Who Shot Ya comes out right after.
Yeah, the timing was suspicious, even if it came out before the shooting.
Yeah.
Tupac saw it as a diss.
Right.
Like rubbing salt in the wound.
Definitely fan the flames. Then there's all that stuff about Tupac and Faith Evans, Biggie's wife. He even talks about it in the song.
He straight up says, "You claim to be a player, but I fucked your wife." Is that true? Or just adding to the drama?
Who knows if it's true? It was a rumor, a possibility, and that's what made it hit so hard. It was meant to humiliate Biggie. And let's be real, it played into a lot of the misogyny in hip-hop back then.
Interesting. There's also this rumor of Faith Evans actually sang backup on Hit 'Em Up. You find anything about that in your research?
Yeah, it comes up a lot, but there's no proof. It's probably just more drama and speculation.
Still adds to the story. Involved or not, her name gets mixed up in all the accusations and betrayals, which is what he does to a lot of people in the song. Like, he's carrying down their reputations, their whole image of authenticity.
I think you're right. There's a pattern there. It's not just insults. It's about exposing what he saw as their hypocrisy.
Like the line, "Biggie, remember when I used to let you sleep on the couch?" Reminding everyone they used to be friends makes the betrayal seem even worse.
And it feeds into this bigger idea in the song, Tupac as the real victim. He's the one who was wrong, the one who stayed true while others sold out.
Even down to their style. He says, "Now it's all about Versace, you copied my style."
That's interesting because it touches on this fear in hip-hop of being a follower, a copycat. Tupac saying Biggie stole more than his style, he stole his essence.
That's harsh in a genre where being real is everything.
Yeah.
Do you think that line hit Biggie harder than the stuff about Faith?
Hard to say, but you're onto something. Authenticity was and still is huge in hip-hop. To be called a fake that cuts deep, it's about more than clothes. It's your whole credibility as an artist, as a person.
So it wasn't just airing dirty laundry. Hit 'Em Up was about who deserved the crown, who was the real deal in hip-hop.
Right.
And Tupac used every weapon he had, from personal attacks to these deeper questions about character. And then there's the music video. It wasn't just a performance. It was a whole visual attack.
Absolutely. The setting, a warehouse, dark, gritty, bullet holes everywhere. It sets the mood right away. Then you've got actors playing Biggie, Puffy, and Lil Kim being mocked. It's meant to be in your face.
Wow.
To really push the aggression of the song.
It's like taking a diss track to another level, bringing it to life visually,
Yeah.
making it even more confrontational.
And that aggression matches the music. The beat hits hard. The delivery is intense. There's danger in every line. It grabs you even if you don't like the message.
It's amazing how he created this sound that fits so well with the lyrics.
Right. It's not just the words. It's the whole package. The music, the delivery, the visuals. It all comes together to make this powerful, almost scary experience.
Yeah.
And that's what makes Hit 'Em Up so fascinating. It's not just a piece of history. It's a song that people still talk about and argue about. It makes you think about art, violence, and what it means to be real. It really got people talking.
So the song drops and it's like a bomb went off in the hip-hop world.
Yeah.
What happened? Did Biggie and Puffy try to defend themselves?
They did, but it never really felt like anyone believed them. Not after what Tupac said.
Yeah, I guess after something that direct, that brutal, how do you even come back from that? Especially when you're image and reputation mean everything.
Exactly.
Tupac really put them in a tough spot, and I wonder if people even wanted to hear their side after that.
It's hard to say, but I think Tupac's delivery was so convincing, so real, so emotional. It felt like he was speaking the truth, even if it wasn't the whole truth.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the power of music, isn't it? Goes straight to your gut, and it doesn't even matter if it makes sense. Did other artists get pulled into this whole thing?
Oh, definitely. Mobb Deep was dissed and hit him up too, and they came back with Drop a Gem on him. It was more subtle. Didn't name Tupac directly, but it definitely kept the fight going.
So it wasn't just one song. It was like this trigger for a whole mess of back and forth.
Yeah.
And then, tragically, both Tupac and Biggie are dead within a year of the song coming out. You think Hit 'Em Up had something to do with that?
No one knows for sure, but it definitely raised the stakes, made it seem like they could never make peace, added to the whole atmosphere of fear and paranoia in hip-hop.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more they talk about violence in their music, the more violence happens around them.
Yeah. It's a tragic irony. Incredibly talented artists pouring out their anger and pain, but their words had real-world consequences. It reminds us words have power, especially with the emotion of music behind them.
Yeah, and that power hasn't gone away.
Yeah.
We're still talking about Hit 'Em Up today, still picking apart the lyrics, still trying to figure out what it all means. Why do you think it still resonates with people? Even people who weren't even born when it came out.
I think it speaks to some really basic human stuff. Loyalty and betrayal, the need to be real, the fight for power and recognition. These are things that resonate with people across generations and cultures.
And it's just a well-made song. The lyrics are sharp, the delivery is intense, and the production is strong. It's a song that stays with you.
Absolutely, and it's become like this cultural landmark, a touchstone for any discussion about diss tracks or rivalries in hip-hop, or the dark side of fame. It's a reminder that even the most creative people can be consumed by anger and violence.
Okay, let's get back to the song itself and look at some of those lyrics that have become so iconic. Like, grab your clocks when you see Tupac.
That line, it's so aggressive, really captures that feeling of threat and danger that runs through the whole song. It's a call to arms, and it's meant to be unsettling.
And then there's Take Money, which is repeated over and over. What do you think he's trying to say with that?
I think it's about how materialistic the hip-hop scene had become. He's saying Biggie and Puffy are sellouts, putting money ahead of being real and true to the art.
It's interesting because Tupac was associated with wealth and success too. But in this song, he's above that. He's willing to give up everything for his principles.
Right, and that's part of why people were drawn to him. He represented a kind of rebellion, a willingness to challenge authority to speak truth to power, even if that truth was driven by anger.
So Hit 'Em Up is this mix of emotions and motivations. It's a diss track, but it's also about loyalty, betrayal, authenticity, and how money and fame can corrupt you.
And it's a song that still makes us think about the power of music, the responsibility of artists, and the consequences of letting anger and violence take over.
Yeah. Even though the song is full of rage and aggression, there's also something vulnerable about it, especially when he talks about their past friendship. It's sad when you think about what happened later.
You're right, there's this sadness that runs through the song, this sense of lost innocence, a brotherhood broken, that makes it even more powerful all these years later.
Maybe that's why we're still so fascinated by it. It reminds us how complicated human relationships can be, that love and hate aren't so far apart, and how powerful music is for expressing the full range of human emotion.
Yeah, and it's a song that even with all the darkness and violence makes us ask, what's really important? What are we willing to fight for, and what are we risking with our actions?
Hit 'Em Up is powerful and disturbing, but it's also an important piece of history. It shows us a chaotic time in hip-hop and raises questions that are still relevant today.
It's a song that deserves to be studied and debated and understood in all its complexity.
I think we've done a good job of that today. Hit 'Em Up is way more than just a diss track. It's a cultural event that people are still talking about.
It shows how talented Tupac was and how he could tap into something primal and raw in all of us.
On that note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive into Hit 'Em Up.
Thanks for coming along with us. It's been great revisiting this iconic song and looking at its impact. So much packed into one song.
Yeah, it's like a Shakespearean tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those larger-than-life figures, betrayal, revenge, and then that feeling of loss in the end.
And like any good tragedy, it leaves you with questions. Like, did Hit 'Em Up go too far?
Yeah.
Can art be too real, even if it comes from a place of real pain and anger?
Those are questions we've been thinking about this whole time, and I don't know if there are any easy answers.
That's part of what makes it so powerful, I think. It forces us to face these uncomfortable truths about ourselves, about the power of words, about how we can create and destroy.
It's also interesting to think about how the media played into all of this. The East Coast-West Coast rivalry was really blown up by the media. They made it seem even bigger and more dramatic than it was.
Yeah, the media loved to turn it into this epic battle. East Coast versus West Coast, two styles, two ways of life. It's hard to say what would have happened if the media hadn't been so focused on it, but they definitely made it worse.
Do you think Tupac and Biggie could have backed down, found some common ground, if the press and the public hadn't been pushing them against each other all the time?
It's a good question. You see it all the time with celebrities. The media loves a good rivalry. It's hard to resist getting caught up in that, even when it's bad for you.
In a way, Hit 'Em Up was kind of a result of that media frenzy, all that anger and resentment all bottled up, and then it explodes.
It captures that moment when things were at their worst between the East and West Coast, but it also goes beyond that. It's about loyalty, betrayal, authenticity, things that still mean something to people today.
And maybe that's what Hit 'Em Up really leaves us with. Words have power. Even in music and entertainment, actions have consequences.
Yeah, it makes us think about the music we listen to and how it affects us, how it shapes our thoughts and feelings and actions.
And to remember that behind all the tough talk and anger, there are real people with real feelings. Their stories matter, even if we don't always like what they did.
It's been really interesting looking at Hit 'Em Up and how it's affected hip-hop and beyond.
Thank you for taking us through this complicated piece of music history. I think we've all learned a lot about what shaped this era and the artists who were part of it.
It's been my pleasure. I hope this has inspired our listeners to keep exploring the world of hip-hop. It's a rich and complex world.
And as always, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. The podcast sponsor is in the description below, so go and check them out. Thanks.